So we were talking about exponential technology, and I posed the question, what's the evidence today that it's still occurring, especially in brain scans? Cody Rell here, coming to you from Grewing Glacier in south central Alaska. I brought you here today to talk about some important things. You know, humans have become the dominant species on this planet. We've encircled the globe. We can even communicate to each other via light speed using our phones and laptops. And we've even been looking at the code of our bodies, their genetic code. Historians tell us that within the past century, we've been able to increase our IQ by 30 points. People a century ago were very concrete thinkers, and because of education and further scientific training, we're able to apply abstract thought to hypothetical situations, which in turn allows us to innovate, to design new technology that allows us to shape our environment. Now, this has been an incredible run, but the time has come for us to take responsibility for what's going on around us. An exploding global population, limited resources, climate change. This is why I decided to film this video here. Alaska is actually a really good place to see climate change. Glaciers like this one behind me have definitely changed within the past century. Portage Glacier near Anchorage, Alaska has melted and receded about 3 miles in the last century. You can see photos of that from previous times. So whether that's related to human activity or not remains out to debate, but I think it's pretty likely that we're having some effect on the planet. We've been able to increase our IQs. We've been able to increase our technology, and I think that we can accelerate this. I think that we can take it a step further. I think that one of the things we can do is really start raising awareness for brain scans. Brain scans have gotten to the level of definition and accuracy that we can see individual differences between people. We can actually see what mechanisms are being activated in terms of motivation, innovative thinking, and other things that make people be great, make people rise to their worthy ideal, to their best selves. And I think by raising awareness of brain scanning technology, we can accelerate that process. Over the next couple of months, I'll be putting out a number of videos that talk about what we've seen in the brain so far and what we can focus on in order to increase everybody's intelligence. Not only just categorical intelligence, but emotional intelligence and other forms of memory and anything else, attention, and other facets that the brain is very good at doing, as long as we can optimize that. On top of what I want to do is a framework, and that framework has to do with exponential technology. My initiative is called Project Napoleon, and it has to do with looking at people that are at the top of their game and trying to devise cognitive strategies that allow them to be so good at what they do, so that eventually we can democratize this information and disseminate among the population, allowing everybody to utilize those philosophies. I called it Project Napoleon because in the 20th century, a journalist named Napoleon Hill interviewed 500 of the greatest thinkers of his time, to include Thomas Edison, Franklin D. Roosevelt, and many others, that allowed him to devise a philosophy of success. And I can only think of how much Napoleon Hill would have liked to have used something like modern-day neuroscience and brain scans in order to discover how people operated at such a high level. So what is exponential technology? Well, I think it's best explained by Peter Diamandis. He's an award-winning author and movement leader. He is chairman of Singularity University, and he came out with a book this year called Bold: Exponential Thinking for Entrepreneurs. And he likes to explain exponential mathematics in a certain way. So exponential, again, if you remember, is doubling each iteration of a number. And if you look at an exponential curve, at the bottom is very flat, and then it takes off up and up and up. Now, the way that Diamandis explains it is, imagine if you took 30 linear steps. How far would you go? Well, you would go about 30 meters if you took 30 linear steps, but if you took 30 exponential steps, how far do you think you would go? Would you have guessed that if you took 30 exponential steps, you would circle planet Earth 26 times? That's the power of exponentials. And the amazing part about it is the complexity of our technology is increasing at an exponential rate. This was first defined by Gordon Moore in the 60s. He was an engineer at Intel at Silicon Valley, and he put out a paper, and now it's called Moore's Law. He noticed that the transistors in integrated circuits were doubling about every 18 months, and that really has held fast. That's really held. The complexity of our technology has increased at that rate, that exponential rate. Ray Kurzweil, entrepreneur, inventor, head engineer at Google for some time, has talked a lot about this, and one thing that he mentioned in his book was that brain scan technology has entered that exponential phase as well. What does this mean? Where's that going? Some other activity has shown the power of brain scans. One of the most influential videos that I've ever seen was a TED Talk by Mary Lou Jepsen. Mary Lou Jepsen was another innovative thinker, head engineer at Google. She's working with Oculus Rift right now, virtual reality, and she presented several studies from other researchers that showed some awe-inspiring things. One experiment took subjects and showed them hundreds of hours of YouTube videos and had a computer record their brain scans and link them with those videos. Now, later on, they were able to just have a computer analyze these people's brain scans from completely new videos and reassimilate the images. The ability of these computers to reassimilate those images was striking. And she was also able to show a study that showed that whether you're thinking a visual image or actually seeing a visual image comes up with the same brain scan pattern. There's other research that's showing that the patterns within our brain can reflect things like pain, so people can do real-time feedback with a functional MRI machine and be able to control their pain by releasing endogenous endorphins within their body. Similar studies are happening for depression and anxiety in Germany. Basically, what this all means is that the patterns within our brain that computers can see with brain scans are reflecting what people are seeing, what people are thinking, and what people are feeling. What this is going to translate in is the ability to become much more sophisticated in understanding our own brains, our own minds, and how we think and how we operate, and using that to increase our intelligence and also communication with machines. This sounds all very out there science fiction, but I assure you it's coming. And you ask, what evidence today would suggest that we are heading in this direction? So back in Washington, D.C. here, in front of the Capitol building, it's a long way from Alaska, but a good reminder that decisions made here will have far-reaching effects across the planet, even in places as far away as Alaska. So we were talking about exponential technology, and I posed the question, what's the evidence today that it's still occurring, especially in brain scans? How do we know that the resolution and cost of brain scans will be going down in the coming decade? Well, the best evidence that I've seen is initiatives taken by the American and European governments to invest a lot of money into designing new machines that are used to study the brain. The American project is called the Brain Initiative and is poised to invest billions of dollars in the next decade into developing this technology. They're improving sensors, they're improving computing speed, they're improving contrast agents, all these things that focus on increasing our understanding of the brain. And all the money is going into developing specifically the technologies that allow us to understand the brain in that way. And then what Project Napoleon is about is bringing awareness of this research to the public and also directing it so we can focus on things that are positive, like being optimistic, being resilient, having wisdom, having self-efficacy, anything that allows people to progress towards their worthy ideal. And I'll have more videos on this coming out in the coming months. Thanks so much for the listen. Until next time.